All right. Welcome, everybody, to Cycle Jerks Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Stewart. I'm here joined, as always, by the friendly and fun loving Dave Dalton. Dave, how are you?
I'm great. I'm really good today. Yeah. And loving life at that other bike company.
I guess we'll get into that, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someday.
All right. So today, this has been a long time coming. Lindsey and I have known each other for, we were just saying, about 15 years and been trying to get her on for a long time. We had some communication. Anyway, it's over now. She's here. And Lindsey Richter, thank you for joining us on the Cycle Jerks podcast.
Well, I'm choking on myself. Sorry.
Right on
Thank you
cue.
for having me.
Very
Excited to
emotional.
be here.
Yeah.
I swallowed funny when I was going to say hello. It's ruined everything.
You need a minute?
I'm good. I'm
Mike,
good. Just get it down. Get it
Mike,
down.
hey Mike, the devil's in the details. You want to say Lindsay Richter from
Oh,
and her
yes.
title in the
Yeah. Well,
organization, or do
let's
you
let
should
Lindsey
we
explain
let
what she does.
people
She's got a
guess?
lot of balls in the air at all times, it seems like.
Who am I? Everyone wants to know who I am.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, my name's Lindsey Richter, and I've been in the bike industry 22 years now. Um, about 15 of that as a mountain bike skills coach. I started a program back in about 2010 called Ladies All Ride. And the vision was that I was racing mountain bikes, racing cross country in my early 20s. This was in the 90s.
Mhm.
And a lot of the races I went to, there weren't a lot of women. And so over the course of a decade in the bike industry, I saw a need for education-based event series. So I created Ladies All Ride mountain bike skills camps, and we travel the country inspiring women with mountain biking.
Yeah, that's super cool. I know several people that have been involved, either coaching or have gone to the camps, and everybody says the same thing. It's just super fun. And so yeah, that's super cool. And you're getting more women involved, and that's something that the industry's been focused on. But let's back up a little bit because I want to find out about your childhood. You grew up in Bend, Oregon,
I
right?
grew up in Portland, between Portland and Bend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, home was Portland in the city, and Bend was kind of our second home where we'd go to get away from it all.
Got it. Got it. So
Yeah.
when did you first discover the bike, and like what was it like growing up for you? Did you do sports?
Well, I did. Sports were my life. Growing up in the city, actually, I played a lot of team sports, basketball, soccer. I ran track and field. I had a horse, so I did lots of horse stuff. And then when I'd go to Bend, which is about 3 hours from Portland, I would guide horseback rides on the local trails around there. So that's kind of a funny flashback story to my dad following me around when I was guiding horses on his mountain bike. And I would be super embarrassed because this was in the 80s. And I'm like, nobody rides bikes on these trails, Dad. They're horse trails. And he thinks he's the innovator of mountain biking in Portland. And so, yeah, I played sports in high school, got really competitive in track and field, excelled pretty quickly. And then I went to college and didn't play sports. And that's kind of where the journey of
Let me guess, you drank
self-discovery
beer.
began. What?
Let me guess, you drank beer instead of did
Yeah,
sports.
I drank beer and I joined a sorority and I did
Okay.
all the things that I thought I was quote unquote supposed to do. Um, but I lost a lot of myself. I don't think I realized, and this is in the early 90s again. So body image, self-esteem, exercise, that it wasn't talked about as something that we need for mental health. I feel like the 90s exercise and fitness at some points had a negative stigma, like, oh, you're working out to be skinny. I didn't realize that I needed exercise for my emotional health. So I spiraled pretty out of control in college. And um, I dealt with a lot of depression and mental health issues that I didn't understand. And I was shamed for them. I was actually kicked out of my sorority. I mean, there's about three stories that go along with that story. So we'll
Yeah.
save that for a beer at the bar. Um, but really, the bottom line was you don't fit in here and you should leave. And that was very confusing for me in college. And fast forward to my 20s, I actually started racing mountain bikes because I lost my fitness. I gained the typical freshman 40 in college, and I just didn't know how to lose it. So I would go to spin class during the workday. I was working in Portland, Oregon, and I think I saw a magazine article, maybe with Marla Streb or Allison Dunlap, one of the old school cross country downhill racers. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to force myself to get my fitness back and I'm going to start racing mountain bikes. So that was at about 22, 23 years old. I chose racing mountain bikes as my path to find my fitness again. And lo and behold, it has turned into my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. What a, that was a pretty big leap, right? Because you didn't really have much of a, it was just your dad, right, embarrassing you on the horse trails. Uh,
Totally. He bought me a mountain bike to take to college because I didn't get a car. So he's like, here, take this mountain bike. It'll get you transportation to school and you might find some fun in it. But I didn't know anyone who rode bikes. I went to college in 92. Mountain biking wasn't really on the map yet in all these communities. I went to school in Tucson, Arizona. I wanted to see what the sun was like. So I left Oregon for a bit. And there just wasn't a big scene there. So I didn't fall into it until I needed a sport. And it really is interesting how I think this new generation coming up is learning that sport is more than a sport, it's a lifestyle. It's something you do to keep yourself feeling good, get outside, feel fresh air in your face. But for me, it helped me work through a lot of mental health issues, taught me a lot about myself. And that's really fast forward why I do what I do, because I think women and people who identify as women, especially, we're very hard on ourselves, especially my generation sort of grew up in that perfectionism world. And I'm trying to help women see that it's about progression, not perfection in anything we do in life.
yeah.
Two crazy things. First of all, you know, you coming out of that, like, I mean, that long ago, right? I mean, it's just starting to be okay to talk about mental illness, and so I can only imagine what it was like back then when it would be just absolutely taboo, right? Because that's what, like their comment, you don't fit in here, right? And then to Mike's point, what a just a random happenstance that you stumble on a magazine at mountain bike and it's this epiphany. And
It's
then
crazy that
finally,
it how it attracted me to the sport. I think there was a part of my personality. I'm very hyperactive. ADHD wasn't talked about back then. I dealt with manic highs and lows. And I really attribute a lot of my mental health issues to my lack of understanding of how to take care of myself. And when you put yourself in a sport where you have to train and think about nutrition, it really sort of illuminates how we treat ourselves in everyday life without a sport. I used to think to myself, people who did CrossFit, oh, what are they training for? But there is truth to training for life.
Yes.
Keeping a sport in your life to train to be strong and healthy and well rounded is a big deal. And I think it's only now being talked about more openly. The correlation between physical health and mental health they go hand in hand.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, you're not our first guest. I mean, number of guests, including Jack Ultra Cyclist, said that, it was getting back on the bike that has helped him cope. And then, but, it's very common just to talk amongst our friends and, the people that are avid cyclists. And Michael say the same thing, right? How shitty we feel if we're not out riding, right? If we're not out riding, how shitty we feel both physically and mentally. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's something too to, putting voluntary, like choosing to put stress on yourself physically, like making that choice. It's the hardest thing you do during the day. And then this other stuff comes your way and people are wound up or stressed out about it. It's just like, you know, we'll deal with it. I don't know. I just feel like it really takes the edge off of life and, um, makes you feel more complacent and comfortable in a weird way. It's like I have to suffer a little bit to get this peace that yeah, but yeah, it is interesting how many guests we've had where that is a pretty common thread. Um,
Well, I
so yeah,
think people too who are hyperactive and maybe didn't get diagnosed with ADHD or were shamed. Part of my issue was calm down, Lindsey. Be quiet, Lindsey. You're talking too loud, Lindsey. You're too hyper. Sit still. That now that I look back on being told that a lot in my life.
yeah,
That's very shameful. That's very shame inducing. Like something must be wrong with me that my behavior is bad. It's bad that I'm hyper. It's bad that I can't sit still. And now I'm learning that it wasn't bad. Nobody knew how to help me channel that energy. So
right.
you look at people like maybe bullies. I use bullies as an example because I don't think bullies necessarily are bad people. I think maybe they were bullied or treated in a certain way that caused insecurities and self-doubt. So they project behaviors onto other people to feel better about themselves. But I also think they haven't been taught how to get that energy out. I had a therapist once tell me to cut a pool noodle in half, and when you're feeling ragey or upset about something, to just take that pool noodle and bang it against a wall, just hit things with it. It's actually really rewarding, and it's a release because you can hit the pool noodle as hard as you want. You can even hit your friends with it and they can barely feel it, but
Yeah,
you get this sensation of just like moving that energy through you. So whether it's a sport or just some kind of movement to help feel and address emotion, we're only now just openly talking about moving feelings through us and identifying them. What is this feeling that's coming up? Oh, I'm feeling jealous of these girls in the sorority who are prettier than me or have convertibles with cell phones in them, and I have a bicycle. These feelings, we just never talked about them all. So mix that with movement and taking care of yourself while also understanding your emotions, and it all works together. And I think what I love so much about a sport like mountain biking is it's not easy. It forces you to stay focused on the present moment. What do I need to do to keep my wheels rolling forward? I can only look and think in the positive, otherwise I'm going to hurt myself. It's a beautiful sport for helping people see what they're truly capable of mentally and physically.
yeah, yeah. It becomes like a metaphor for life, because when they look at the trail at first, it's like, oh, no way, that's not for me. And then you teach them the skills to get over it, and then all of a sudden these other obstacles in their life become just something they need to learn how to deal with and get through it, and it's not so daunting.
Exactly. When
Yeah,
we think we can't do something, we might want to think again.
yeah, that's all us putting that on ourselves.
For sure.
Yeah,
And again, it wasn't really talked about. I don't think people understood the process that we go through mentally. I've had to learn through years of therapy and understanding my thoughts and emotions to separate myself from my own brain and look down on myself and listen to my thoughts from an outsider's perspective. I think that's very difficult for people to do, to actually step back and listen to what you're saying to yourself. And a lot of times people are really mean to themselves.
oh yeah,
And when I accomplish things on a mountain bike, I feel accomplished and strong and good about myself. And that's what I encourage other women to do. Take this tangible result, this measurable progression. You didn't ride that rock garden yesterday. Today you learned how, you practiced the skills required, and then you did it. That's a very measurable thing to grab onto that helps you see how people can hold themselves back when they doubt themselves. Mountain biking really illuminates what's possible, and I think kind of sparks an interest in people about what more do I hold myself back from? What more can I accomplish if I actually believe in myself?
yeah, yeah.
Let me
Well,
ask you a question. No, I agree 100% on that, but I want to backtrack a little bit. So, and this will be a strange analogy, right? But you know, we all get into that mode where, let's say you put on weight and you say, all right, I got to lose weight, and so I'm going to try this diet, or I'm going to do this technique, or whatever the case may be. So here you are in this dark place, if you will, and you find mountain biking and you say, I'm going to give it a try. Like, at what point did it click and say, this is it? And it wasn't just another fad. Like, at what point are you starting to do this? And was it you're starting to see results, or was it love at first ride? Or what was it that all of a sudden you said, yeah, this is the answer?
I think it was a journey for me. I think at first I was one of the only women at the races I was going to in Oregon. I would just find flyers in bike shops and get myself to these races, and there weren't a lot of women. So I think step one for me was that feeling of accomplishment. I ended up racing against the boys, and that felt really good to pass 15 men at the finish line, you know? So I think at first I was fueling that competitive spirit in me that I had lost in college. And then over time, well, there's a backstory. When I ended up on a reality TV show called Survivor. That's a whole nother
Oh,
story.
well, but we're going to talk about
Oh,
that though.
Well, I'm
hold on a
sure we
second.
will.
Yeah,
I
let's talk
got on
about
that
that.
show because of mountain biking. I videoed myself on my mountain bike in a precarious situation.
Uh,
Um, but it got me attention and I got on because of that. Um, and so I
Holy
feel
shit, we
like
watch
that
that show every
competitive
year.
side of me was brought out through mountain biking and then going on reality TV. Then I met and married very quickly, within a year, a pro downhill racer. And I didn't really know downhilling was even a sport. I knew about cross country. And that put me into the bike industry, but it put me into the bike industry amongst a bunch of really talented professional riders that suddenly made me doubt my own abilities. So I went through kind of this roller coaster of feeling like $1 million racing sport class,
uh,
beating boys, and now suddenly elevating myself to these Norba national races and even attending some of the World Cup races. I suddenly felt inadequate. And this is where my coaching journey started is I'm now divorced. So my ex-husband and his myriad of professional friends never really gave me any advice. And I would ask all kinds of questions about how they did things. And they didn't really know how to articulate it because coaching wasn't really on the map yet. People weren't really articulating what they were doing. And a lot of these pro racers that I was now surrounded by and feeling really insecure around would just say things like, I don't know, I've just been doing this my whole life. A lot of them got to where they're at because they just threw themselves in at a young age and developed a lot of muscle memory and just like knew what they were doing without actually articulating what they were doing.
yeah.
And so my journey was I was kind of pissed off for a little while. I would throw tantrums, throw my bike, blame others for not waiting for me or giving me any pointers. I'd be left alone in the back because these pro riders would ride so fast that they'd just leave me behind. And that was part of my journey in self discovery and realizing a lot of my true colors came out when I was upset at my mountain bike. Temper tantrums, blaming, beating myself up, feeling inadequate. And so I think my journey went from being competitive to realizing how this sport relates to life. And it's bringing out this monster side in me out of frustration and not knowing how to do it. Once I learned how to do it by getting certified to coach, it turned into this whole lifestyle. I saw that I met people who I related to. I found women I could be friends with. After the sorority debacle, I was a little hesitant with women. But when I found mountain biking women, I felt like these are my people. So I found community, I found challenge, I found emotional healing. So it was definitely not instantaneous. It was a roller coaster journey. And I'm seeing that now with other people. You know, they have to fill out a skills survey to come to our classes. And a lot of times they'll say, I'm still trying to figure out if I like this sport. I'm still trying to figure out if it's worth doing because of the risk versus reward. So, to answer your question, it was definitely a roller coaster of doing it for different reasons and then having it come kind of full circle back to doing it for myself because it's good for my soul.
Yeah. It's got to be so rewarding helping all these women conquer, conquer the mountain. That's that's awesome, you know.
Yeah, they're conquering themselves too. We get in
Yeah,
our own way a lot.
right. Right. Okay. So you brought up Survivor, and I'm glad you did because I'm a big Survivor fan. Okay. I know I'm a dork, whatever, but I do love the show. And I was reading your Survivor I don't know, some kind of bio on there. So you made it 18 days. And it was funny in the summary of your antics on the show, it said that you always voted out the oldest surviving member of the cast at every vote. So they kind of painted you as like someone who was just like, get these old people out of here, you know? Was
Which
that
is funny because those old people were probably my age now.
right? Right. Yeah. So was that something that you were consciously aware of, or was it more like, I'm just not connecting with these people? I'm more, it wasn't a conscious thing, like,
No, I wasn't like, oh, get these oldies out of here. I mean, remember, this was 20 plus years ago. So young 20 something Lindsey was more like 16 level maturity.
uh-huh,
Really, what happened was it was the third season ever, and we had no idea what we were doing. I didn't even watch it before I got on it because the internet wasn't a thing.
right.
So I had to go rent the DVD from Blockbuster in order to even see the show. And I did it like 3 days before going. I'd already applied for the show and got on before I knew what I was getting myself into.
Oh,
So by
wow.
the time I got on this show, we were just scraping to figure it out. And I just sort of bonded with some of the younger people. And just by happenstance, we chose one person who was rather obnoxious on our tribe to vote out first. It ended up being a bit of a battle between him and I. And once he went, the older people just naturally formed an alliance. And if you've ever watched Survivor, it's all about building these relationships. But I also was really naive and didn't understand that it was a manipulative, emotionally damaging game and a bad human experiment, that I didn't really participate in that side of it. I wasn't strategic at all. I was young, dumb, immature, reactive, and found this alliance with these young people. And once we voted one person out from the other alliance, we had the upper hand. So it turned into the marketing behind the show was young versus old. But that was not intentional. It's just kind of the way that the cards, were laid out, the way things happened. But then if you did watch my Survivor, they put a little twist in there that ruined everything. So
Yeah.
didn't really work out in my favor. But I had no plan going into it, nor did I have the ability to plan things while I was out there. It was very fly by the seat of your pants, react in the moment. You're starving. That is true. They starve you, and you're a little scared.
Right. I mean, the combination of sleep deprivation and food, being hungry, those two things together, I mean, you just try that in your normal life and you're going to be in really rough shape, but let alone on an island with a bunch of people you don't know. That's why it's
Or
compelling
in
to watch,
Africa, in
Yeah,
a
in
big
Africa.
dirt field.
Right. Crazy.
It was pretty shocking. They strip you of all your comforts. It's a very strategic show aimed at putting people together in a situation where they will naturally conflict.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's why I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I found something out while I was looking at your Survivor, history, that you also did an Eminem video.
That's my claim to fame right
How about
there.
that? How crazy was that? Did you work with Eminem?
I
Like,
did. It was
you guys
so
talk and all that?
fun. Oh, we hung out. I have photos of us and Dr. Dre. It was so cool. Yeah, they were pretty much making fun of reality TV in one of his videos. And so they had some of the cast of The Real World and
Yep.
cast me and another Survivor girl. And I mean, this is a very typical story of my experience with fame. I like to call it infamy, or faux celebrity. I was a faux celebrity, like fake celebrity.
Uh-huh.
We got cast for this music video, and all we knew was you're going to be doing a Survivor challenge with Eminem. So we're on set for 14 hours. We have our own trailers where we get to stand there and watch them shoot all the other scenes. Now, mind you, there was a couple porn stars in this video. It was very interesting to get to know them. But we all hung out and watched them filming this video. And in between takes, Eminem and Dr. Dre would come and banter with us and hang out with us. It was super cool. We were there for 14 hours. Wow. And then when it was time for us to do our scene, all we knew was we're in hair and makeup. They put us on a log in one of those portable pools that they just pop up and fill with water. Okay. So all I knew was I'm on a log in a portable pool with a green screen behind me, imagining they're going to make it like the jungle or something, because, you know, we're out doing a challenge with Eminem. So another classy moment of mine, because I was so classy on Survivor, let's be real, was sitting with a bunch of my friends and family watching the MTV music video premiere of Eminem's song Without Me, where I'm waiting for my part. Where are we? And all of a sudden he's Elvis and he's sitting on a toilet, and then he stands up from the toilet and the camera pans down into the toilet. And for one moment, I was just like, oh no, oh no, oh no. Yep, there we are, just standing on a log in a toilet having a Survivor challenge with Eminem.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Stay classy, Lindsey. Stay classy. That's become my theme in life. Even our Ladies All Right camps, that's our joke. Stay classy, ladies. Stay classy. Stay classy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, so did that come about I mean, obviously you're a Survivor cast member. So was it kind of like you just get a call out of left field, or were you actively kind of pursuing like, hey, now I've been this reality star, I'm going to maybe make a career in acting, and I'm going to get an agent and put myself out there? Or was it just that kind of fell in your lap?
Well, that's how I ended up actually in the bike industry. Was I moved to LA from Portland because Survivor was offering us so many unbelievable opportunities to make money doing very strange things, like signing autographs at Burger King's and Walmart and making a lot of money doing it. Yeah. So I moved to LA and I got an agent, and that's how it all happened. We were a big deal back then. We were these fake celebrities that had no acting training, and they just threw us into things. And I got thrown into the Eminem video, and I said a big ol' yes, for sure, I'm doing that. It was the highlight of all this.
I'm sure. I mean, geez.
It was great. Yeah.
One of the GOATs for sure. Yeah, that's pretty wild. So did your run with all the Survivor spill off or runoff, did that just kind of come to like a logical close over time, or was it more like, I've had enough of this, I'm going to go do something?
More like a screeching halt.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, you know, it's a funny experience, reality TV. I've honestly thought about becoming a reality TV former contestant therapist, because it's a very interesting road, especially for us, because it was so new. The only reality TV we had all seen was really the real world. So Survivor was a very big deal, and they really put us out there to be famous. So I think there was a misconception amongst a lot of participants on that show that we were going to be instantly famous. We were going to have our own shows. We were going to make all this money and never have to work a real job again. And they were done with us when they were done with us. Thank you very much. New cast coming in. Goodbye.
Right.
And they didn't, some Survivor contestants have gone on to play in All Stars and other things. But I'll be honest with you, I upset CBS by being in the Eminem video, and they banned me for life from all other Survivor activities. They asked me not to do it because he was making fun of the show. But my dad's a lawyer, and he read my contract that was 87 pages long and said, actually, they're not saying your first and last name, nor are they saying the word Survivor, because legally they couldn't. They just said, Eminem is on America's favorite reality TV show. So there was actually no reason that I couldn't do it. So I defied CBS and said, no, thank you, I'm doing it. And they got mad and never invited me back to anything again.
I'm going to go hang out with Dr. Dre and Eminem for the afternoon. Yeah.
Totally. I'm like, totally worth it. And now that I'm looking at what goes on Survivor, I'm just like, no, thank you. I'm good. That was a one and done experience. Good for me.
Yeah. Well, I think you're onto something though with like you know, reality star therapist. Get him a mountain bike, get him on the mountain and just, you know, that could be good reality TV, at least for me.
Totally. Well, I'm sure you've seen Reggie Miller out there
Oh
riding
yeah.
mountain bikes.
Yeah.
We've been in touch a little bit. I don't know how we got connected, but we've had some conversations about doing something for ex-pro athletes,
Yeah.
getting them into mountain biking, showing them a whole new lifestyle. Reggie's so into mountain bike racing, and it's been really cool to watch his journey from massive NBA star to finding a lifestyle with mountain biking.
Yeah. Yeah. He's always been one of, I mean, he's just a super charismatic person anyway. Obviously, he did, you know, broadcasting and everything, but even when he was playing, he was always had these great sound bites and he was just, yeah, he's something else. Yeah. And I know he's gotten Ray Allen and some of these other retired basketball players into cycling. It's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. All right. So with Ladies All Ride, let's go back to, you know, your real gig. That was a fun aside though.
Yeah.
So what's the state of it right now? How many it's you and how many coaches? And then where do you go and how does somebody get involved if they want to you know, go to one of your camps?
Yeah, it's myself, and I have a business partner, Meredith, and we have one full-time employee, and then we have about 40 coaches around the country,
Wow.
who I've met through my 20 years in the bike industry, 22 years in the bike industry. And you know, I worked in sponsorship when I got into the bike industry. I managed my ex-husband's career, and I learned a lot about how the bike industry works, how they sponsor events. Um, I realized that I didn't want to try to be a super pro. I was already in my 30s by the time I discovered coaching. So I realized that in order to have industry support, I needed to create an event series that was education based. But much like the World Cup series or the Norba National that used to be, sponsors were a lot more inclined to give money to event series. And it took me a lot of begging, probably 10 years of asking companies if they wanted to do something for women specifically. And it wasn't until Live Cycling came along that I got my first big sponsor. That was amazing because they had the same vision as me, for women, by women. They wanted to see more women getting into the sport. And it just felt like the perfect fit to support our event series that was education based, trying to invite more women into the sport in a safe and welcoming way by putting the emotional component of mountain biking, the mental health aspect of it at the forefront. And so Live became our title sponsor. And so Live Ladies All Ride, powered by SRAM, was born in 2015 officially. I started coaching in 2010, and then 2015 is when I finally got myself a series of mountain bike skills camps. Now we run 14 camps around the country. We go all over. I have a van and a trailer full of Live demo bikes. So people get to demo the bikes. And that's really special too, because, you know, unlike a big event that's meant for demo where people take multiple bikes out on a trail ride and compare bikes or get an hour on it, they're learning things they've never done before on these bikes. And it's really cool to see that connection that they develop with these bikes, learning to pop a wheelie and get up something you never thought you could get up. There's this magical connection where they start to trust and develop this relationship with their bikes. It's really cool. So we have 14 camps around the country. We go anywhere from Bend, Oregon to Montana to Wyoming to Arkansas to Vermont to Arizona. Our schedule changes. We're mixing it up and going to different places. Each venue has a different set of skills that we focus on. For instance, if you come to our Whitefish, Montana camp, you're going to wear a full face helmet and do mostly downhill skills. But then our Sedona, Arizona camp, you're going to learn how to climb chunky technical, we'll climb and descend chunky technical rock. So each venue has kind of a different focus. And people work their way up through the coaches. Each coach, there's about 10 groups per camp. We have about 70 women at each camp. And each coach gives participants a different experience. And once people realize that they can move through our program by coming next year, coming to a different venue, getting a different coach, they'll have a totally different experience. Each of our coaches has their own style of coaching. We're really proud of that feature at our camps. We don't have a cookie cutter way of coaching. Everyone brings their own style and their own expertise. So we see a lot of repeat people who work their way through our program throughout the years. We get at all levels, from brand new to mountain biking to more advanced riders who want to hone in on those skills. We get a lot of women, I'm 50, I just turned 50 a couple weeks ago, get a lot of women in their 50s and 60s who are looking to do something for themselves. Maybe they've retired or they've raised kids or they've spent their whole lives working. And we really attract women who are ready to take charge of their own lives and are looking to fuel something in them that is based on taking care of themselves and having their own thing in life. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of women in transition periods in life, realizing what they're capable of and just going for it full speed on a mountain bike. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really
You
cool.
get the, how do you, this is, it's not a marketing question so much as it is, I'm really curious as to how you get the word out that you would attract somebody at 55 years old to say, come here, strap on a full face helmet, we're going to go down some rocks, right? And I think I'd love to know what that message is because in general, I just want to see more women in the sport anyways. I don't care if it's a road bike, a gravel bike, a mountain bike. I just want to see more people getting in it. How do you get their attention for something like that?
It's a good question. It's changing, to be honest with you. At first, we started 2010 is really when I started to get the word out. Ladies All Ride to me in the beginning was a movement, more ladies. And I use the term ladies. I named the company way back in the day. I would love to change it to include non-binary and people who identify as women. I think people get the point that the name ladies just really refers to, we're targeting women, people who identify as women, non-binary folks as well. But I started by making a video. It's slightly offensive to some people at this point, but it's called Big Balls. I made a spoof. This is back before social media. So I made a spoof infomercial where I put two pink balls on the back of my friend's bike. We made a whole infomercial about how we have what you need. You need big balls. And the whole point of Big Balls happened because of my conversations with women at bike events where I would say, why are you spectating and not riding? Oh, I don't have the balls for this sport. It was a very common thing out of people's mouths. Oh, I don't have the balls to pop a wheelie. I don't have the balls to do that. I just kept hearing it. And one day I just thought, well, you don't need a certain genitalia to ride a mountain bike. It doesn't matter what parts you have.
Yeah.
So I made a video kind of making fun of that saying, I don't have the balls for this. And basically my friend crashes because the balls got stuck in her wheel and literally broke both her arms in the video. And I turned it into like a class action lawsuit that big balls are very dangerous and that women don't need these parts to be brave. So that was my initial attempt at kind of just tongue in cheek, making fun of the sport being scary and that we have this product that you can buy that will help it be less scary. But then that turned into a catastrophe. So I moved on from making videos to coaching. But I think my journey with marketing, I come from a marketing advertising background. That's what I did before I got on Survivor. I was in advertising. But it's kind of irrelevant now because the computer was new and the internet was new. So we were doing direct mail and radio ads and magazine ads. So when I got on social media, I very intentionally tried to create an image with myself for the public to relate to. I tasked myself with being a voice for women in mountain biking because there weren't that many of me out there preaching to get more women into mountain biking publicly. So I put myself on social media with the intention to illuminate my mental health struggles and how the bike has helped me. And that was kind of my first step into helping. I knew I didn't want to just be a company with no face behind the brand, because choosing to ride a bike, as you're alluding to, is an emotional journey for women. There's fear involved, there's intimidation, there's self-doubt. I'm not good enough. I can't do those scary, hard things. It's an extreme sport. So I was also in the bike industry when Red Bull Rampage was just getting started. And I was seeing the hype around this. And coming from TV with Survivor, my mission was I want to get mountain biking on TV in an inviting way. I didn't find Rampage personally to be an avenue for parents and women to watch and say, yeah, I want to do that. That looks fun.
Yeah.
So I was kind of fighting against
It's like
Rampage
NASCAR.
a
We're
little
just
bit.
watching it for the crash. Yes. Yeah.
It's not my favorite event, but that's all right. There's a expression for everyone. It's a way of expressing yourself. I get it. I totally believe in what it stands for, but
Well,
I
we
was
have
kind of
women now
fighting against it.
We do have women now competing in Rampage.
We have women competing. That's great. I think it's great.
It's pretty cool.
But in the old days, that was the only thing on TV. And it was very frustrating for me because I was trying to be a voice to help women not be intimidated by the sport.
Yep.
So I was very open about how it's helped my mental health. Then I started posting videos of myself just kind of naturally, was like, I don't know, this looks like a hard move. Will somebody videotape me climbing this rock? And then I would fail a couple times. And then I would put that out there. I would show my failures. And then I would show what it took for me to succeed. And so I think that in the very early days of social media, I just had this instinct to make the sport real for people, to show it being relatable and show the struggle, but also show the accomplishment that comes with the struggle when you don't give up. So I think social media has been our main avenue for advertising. And it's because we've developed a following that feels like they can relate to us. We're human, we're real, we're very down to earth. We're not a bunch of like gnarly girls hitting those big giant gap jumps. We're regular people who don't want to get hurt, who are moving into our 50s. I'm choosing not to ride things I used to ride. So I think that we bring a very humbled voice to the sport, and that caught on. Now, of course, social media is a different beast. There's so many people out there putting skills on social media, coaching on social media. And I'll be real with you. This was our first year in a decade of doing this that we didn't sell out right when we opened registration in January. We opened registration in January all the way for all of our 14 camps through October. And we've usually completely sold out with a massive wait list. This is the first year that we were struggling to fill all of our camps. They've ended up filling, but it was more of a struggle. And to be honest, I'm trying to figure it out myself. What do I do?
Right.
So it's not easy. I think social media is getting very loud and saturated. I also think there's a lot more people coaching. So there's more offerings for people to get lessons. Our events are very special. They're different. It's a whole experience. We have demo shoes, demo pads, demo bikes. They can come with, we're trying to eliminate barriers so that they can come and borrow the gear they need, try before you buy. We have education stations, happy hours. We teach them to work on their bikes, how to fix a flat, how to do bike maintenance. We try to impact how to set up their suspension. So our events are all encompassing to help women step into the bike industry feeling capable on and off the bike. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I don't know how I'm going to continue, because it's a problem. I'm struggling right now.
Well, I think in general, I think you raise it right at that point, right? Social media is loud. So there's a lot of people doing it, and there's a lot of people getting pulled in different directions. We've talked about this on the podcast, like why is road racing sucking wind? Well, so many people are getting pulled to gravel events, and there's so many events going on, but you seem to have such a unique angle to that, which is it really, God, I hate this phrase because it's a, but it isn't only about the bike, it's about the mind, right? And so I doubt other people are doing that. And that sounds like a message that's just going to somehow rise above the noise and get to and resonate with people, right? Because it's happening. It's happening all over. I used to do group rides out of my old shop, and we get 60 people. Now I'm lucky if I get 30, right? They're all pulled in different directions, but I don't necessarily offer anything unique. You've got something clearly very unique there, right?
Thanks. What's made us really proud is we do ask people where they've heard about us. And while many of the answers are social media, I do this thing called Teachable Tuesdays. People really like them. Like I said, I show failures to success. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's a changing world, and people, you're right, people are getting pulled in a lot of different directions. But what makes me really proud is a lot of people are telling us it's word of mouth that they're hearing about us. My friend went and she told 10 of us we have to go. And that's what we're counting on, is that we're providing such a unique and special experience that word of mouth will continue to carry us and continue to help bring people to us.
Yeah. Well, and
Would also,
you're kind of being hard on yourself because you're still selling out, right? You still sold
Yeah.
out. So, we've had the local race promoter from Velo Promo, and he's had to actually cancel because the turnout's so low. In some of these classic road races that have been happening in our area for a lot of years. It does seem like post COVID, there's been a real dip, and you know, did you so you sold out last year, no problem, and then this year it was different. Did you see a drop after COVID?
Yeah, we saw a rise after COVID. We
Oh, you did.
saw people wanting to get back to events, and ours are completely 100% outdoors.
Yeah.
So I think that was an attraction. I also think a lot of people working remotely, because we had such big wait lists, we added midweek camps at a lot of our venues. Vermont, I just got back from Vermont. We have 2 back-to-back camps. We have a weekend camp and a midweek camp. I think the midweek camps are honestly the only ones we're struggling to fill. We used to have wait lists of 200 people. So we added the midweek camp, and a lot of people with kids were like, this is great. My partner can put the kids in school and we can come here. But I also think people weren't required to go back to the office yet.
Yeah.
I think now, fast forward, we're in a recession.
Yeah.
People are being forced more to go back to the office and show FaceTime. I just think right now with the recession, we're in an election year. I think this is kind of normal. I think COVID, there was a boom, and then of course the bike industry felt that boom, and then people settled back into their real lives over these last couple of years. So, I think we just have to pivot and maybe not run the midweek camps and find some new venues. I'm not worried about it. I do think we offer something so special, but I am hearing this across the board. And again, from you all, that events around the country, around the world, have taken a hit. I think the expendable income to do something big for yourself isn't as common right now while people figure out this recession and kind of wait to see what's going to happen come November.
I'll also say one thing. I'm not telling you how to run your business, right? I mean, I think the power of the mind, mental health is such a great aspect of it. But the other thing, which I think is unique, because I think the industry as a whole does a shitty job at it, and it's one of the things that I think I do well in my group rides, and what does make that, even though the numbers come back, it's the inclusivity. Right. It's all levels. And I just think that the world is full of bike snobs, right? And the clubs and camps and everything else are full of the elitists, which is fine. I'm not knocking it. That's their jam. But I think it's few and far between where a group, an organization, a club, a company says it doesn't matter, you're all welcome. Right.
Yeah, we make that really clear. It's a big deal for us. And, I make a speech at the beginning of our camps, and the speech really is about inclusivity. One of the first things I say is, Don't be looking at each other, sizing each other up, looking at her new bike and that sweet new outfit. That's comparison. And comparison is the thief of joy. Brene Brown.
Yeah.
We're very open that we are all here to meet each other where we're at, that we don't compare ourselves to others. We don't even compare ourselves to our past selves. If someone in your group is popping a wheelie first try and you're not getting it, this is not the environment where you're allowed to beat yourselves up. This is a place where you go easy on yourselves, you give yourself grace. This is a place where we're here to celebrate the little successes and the little joys. Like, we make it very clear that we welcome all walks of life, all LGBTQ plus, all women of color, all body shapes, all sizes, all fitness levels. We say these words to help everyone there just feel that little bit of stress leave their shoulders, because we see them all standing there looking nervous, not really knowing what to expect. I'm 100% sure they're all comparing themselves to each other. I had one woman say to me, "Oh, I showed up at your camp and I kind of felt some women posturing." And I said, "I guarantee you those women were just as nervous as you. And they're just trying to figure out how to stand to look cool." And we diffuse that right out of the gate. I mean, the minute I welcome everyone, I play a song by Lizzo called "Where My Girls At." We all sing and dance our way to the front to welcome them. And I say, we're much better coaches than we are dancers, but we're going to be vulnerable in front of you right now because we're asking you to be vulnerable in front of us. And we're all in this together. As coaches, I mean, I always have some like fresh scar on my body. I'm like, I still fall down, and I tell them this because I'm not perfect. I'm human. And we're all here to just celebrate this sport and what it can do for our lives and not compare ourselves or think we're better than anyone. I'll even say, it's great if you're queen of the mountain. That doesn't matter here.
Yeah. You know, it's
Awesome.
funny, like when the posturing comment, right? It's like, I feel like a lot of that's your inner dialogue. That's you.
Your nervousness. Yeah.
That may not be them even. That's just you.
No.
And you're looking at these people and it's like, wow, they look a little cooler than me. And then you put it on them like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot to it, you know.
I think that's human behavior. And that's a
It
lot of
is.
what we're actually trying to get to the bottom of, is really like illuminating this in women, really teaching them to listen to your thoughts. When you're riding down a rock garden, you're not thinking about what your face is going to look like if you hit that rock with it. You're not staring at that tree going, what is my nose going to look like if I crash into that tree? You're only thinking thoughts that serve you. I'm going there, and this is what I need to do to get there. And we're trying to help them see how they show up in life. Do you walk into a room and assume nobody likes you? Is that your inner dialogue? Where does that come from? We have been told that we spark a personal discovery journey in women. I've had lots of middle-aged women say to me, "I've never even thought to relate this sport or any sport to life." And then when we start rambling off the parallels and the symmetry between getting up when we fall down, only looking ahead, only moving forward, only thinking thoughts that serve us, that keep our wheels rolling, only then do they start to realize and have these epiphanies of, man, I should go on this healing journey and really figure out who I am and how I've shown up in life all this time. It really helps people, I think, see themselves for who they are. You see lots of women beat themselves up when they can't get something, and we'll stop them and say, is this common for you to get so mad at yourself when you can't get something right away? And where does this come from? And a lot of them realize, maybe I was raised with perfectionist parents or parents that fought a lot and put each other down. Like, past traumas start coming out, and we're here for it. We're totally here for it.
Yeah, I know somebody that really beats himself up if they can't clean a section on a trail. Yeah, he's
It's
quite.
not good.
The first time I experienced it, I was like, whoa, you know. But yeah, he's
I'm an
really
asshole
good
to
himself.
myself.
Yeah, we had this guest on the podcast, and I don't think he's actually a sports physiologist. I forget exactly what he calls himself, but he does have a podcast. He's Michael Seeley, and he talks a lot about the inner dialogue. He works with athletes, he coaches and does different things. But he said something that I really liked. He says, you come in as the administrator of your thoughts. And he says, you know, you got to get to this place where you, instead of just going with the thoughts that are in your head, you need to start analyzing the thoughts that are in your head and where are they coming from, and start parsing them out. And there are thoughts that are going to help you and there are thoughts that are going to hurt you, and just be more administrative about it, and don't just take every thought that comes into your head, because there's a lot there that's not going to serve you well. And so I think every human being, we're all the same. We're all struggling with confidence, or, whatever, how we look, how much money we have, whatever it is, everyone struggles with their own inner dialogue. And
Yeah.
so
And we
getting,
illuminate that.
yeah, getting that power, the empowerment that you're providing, I'm sure it just goes on so far beyond just on the bike.
Yeah, I think it does. And I think it's a really pleasant way for people to work on themselves. When a lot of women come to us and say, I just get so scared, I don't know how to control my thoughts. And our advice to them is, we're going to teach you mantras that you can have in each situation. For me, when I'm riding a trail I don't know, that's maybe extra chunky technical, my mantra is, look ahead, look ahead, look ahead, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. Braking can be bad in certain situations. So teaching women not to panic brake, we tell them to say out loud, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. And that doesn't give your brain room to let the fear in. You're focused on what needs to happen. You're saying it out loud, and physiologically that takes over your body. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm letting it roll. When in reality, you're like, oh shit, rock, oh root, there's a lot going on when you're mountain biking. You've got to pay attention to a lot of body parts and how they're all reacting together. And we're trying to help people get into the flow state, because isn't that the ultimate goal? Being so present at the moment that your brain is quiet and your body is just doing what it needs to do to get you through. So we're giving them these mantras to say out loud to really block the emotion and keep it out, so that the logical side of the brain stays focused on what needs to happen and tells the body what to do. I mean, we even have a psychologist on our staff who's a coach who does an education station on fear. And she breaks down the mammalian and the reptilian brain and what actually physically happens to us when we feel fear and we freeze. And she gives our students tools to, butterfly tapping, stimulating the different sides of the brain. Like, we give them actual tools to slow down, come into their breath, stimulate both sides of their brain, and get back into that logical state of mind so they can move past the fear. And then we ask them, I went through divorce and I'm open about this. I say this in my welcome speech. It's not something anybody wants to go through. It's a terrible thing to go through. And it was probably some of the hardest times in my life. I really cared about this person. But the situation was, it was unhealthy for both of us. But the fear of leaving, the fear of losing all ride and everything I'd worked for was really holding me back. And I think I didn't realize that it was fear. And, we're amicable now. It's great. I ended up having a very lucky divorce, but I say it out loud to people. If you've ever been through divorce, it's debilitating. It causes you to lose belief in yourself, to wonder if you'll ever find love again, if you're good enough, and you ruminate on what you did wrong. And I think we're really helping people even identify the fear they go through in daily life and how to cope with that. It all relates.
Yeah.
I like that. I as I tend to do, I'm backtracking a little bit, but I like that. Would you say is let it roll? A long time ago, I'll try to make this quick, and I think it's a good analogy. I was when I was in tech, they would always go to these conferences, right? And there was a guest speaker on there one time, and they brought somebody up on stage, and he had this little, I think it was a roll of lifesavers. And he stood at the other end of the stage and he said to this person, catch this. And he threw it. And this person was clearly not an athlete, if you will. And it was like, and missed the lifesavers, right? And he goes, okay, let's try this again. This time I want you to count the revolutions of the lifesavers. He throws it. The guy goes, and just scooped it like that, because the guy was because he wasn't thinking about it, he was doing what comes naturally, right? And that's what I think with that let it roll. And Dan Hepner used to have a saying, and I do use it when I finally have the balls to try something. He used to say, trust the bike, trust the bike. And if I'm coming up on an obstacle, I'll do that. Trust the bike, trust the bike, trust the bike. And I'm stop thinking about what's happening. I'm just doing. So anyways, it's a little sidebar, but I just think that that's very powerful.
Yeah.
It's super powerful. And I think it's like anything. If we train our brains to think a certain way over time, and I'm an example of this, I've had horrifyingly debilitating thoughts about myself for a lot of my life. I did go through a very low point where I was very suicidal. I just didn't see any point to life or living. And I did the work on training my neural pathways to think differently. I worked very hard at listening to meditations, of getting those positive mantras and affirmations in my head. And it's the same with bikes. When you get those positive affirmations over time, you don't even really feel the fear. I can look at any technical section now and trust that I have the skills to get through that based on what I know about myself and what I've practiced. I've also done that in life. I don't have the highs and lows I used to have. I'm not on medication for depression anymore. I truly believe that I've done the work enough so that I've changed that initial reaction that my brain goes through, and it does tend to trend towards the positive now. But that's taken work. I believe mental health is the exact same as physical health. It takes practice, patience, and perseverance and work, or it's not going to change.
Wow. Yeah, that that was really surprising to hear that. Because ever since I've known you, I mean, granted, it's a small part of your life, but you've always been so positive, and I just think of like you're just turned up, you're just like on, and you're fun, you're just like this fun, positive person. But
I've had to learn to be.
yeah. So when was it, when, if you don't mind me asking, when you went through these suicidal thoughts? How old were you? Was it like what you're describing in college, or was it post-divorce, or maybe was there something else in there that led to those types of thoughts?
It's been sprinkled in throughout my life. When I was pretty young, I remember writing dark poetry, feeling very alone, feeling like something was wrong with me, like I was different. I was very manic as a young kid, lots of big moods, big temper tantrums. And I think as much as our parents tried their best, and I had lovely parents who loved us a lot, they didn't know how to communicate. So I was scolded for my behavior a lot, which turned into a lot of shame, a lot of thinking I'm bad and something's wrong with me. Then go to college, I start drinking. I wasn't a partier. I still am not. I've always been kind of a straight-laced person who doesn't really like alcohol. I never touched a drug. Even in college, I didn't even touch pot. I was super straight-laced. And so I think drinking and trying to fit in, it caused me to lose my identity. And in college, I was pretty down on myself. I didn't really find any purpose for being there. And especially getting kicked out of my sorority and having girls, they would say things to me like, you have nothing to be sad about. What's wrong with you? So then I would question myself, what is wrong with me? Why am I sad all the time? Um, Reality TV, I got criticized online. Like I said, the internet was pretty new and social media wasn't around yet, but there were chat rooms. People were really into chat rooms when the internet popped up in 2001. And they would write the meanest shit about us. And I would just sit there till 3 a.m. reading these. And then even like talk show hosts, I mean, we did it all. We went on David Letterman, Howard Stern, Regis and Kelly. We walked red carpets. We went to these interviews. They ripped on me. They tore me apart. They made fun of me. My appearance was made fun of. Like I just got beat down. So when I moved to LA, honestly, when I met and married my now ex-husband, I think I was very much just like, I need something. I do not know who I am. Now I'm living in LA. I'm getting rejected all the time. That was pretty low. And then I perked back up through my marriage. I had a very lovely, charismatic ex-husband who taught me a lot about being on a team and really encouraged the path I'm on now. And then divorce, I was pretty low. It felt like a big failure for me. I think for both of us, it felt like a big failure. We were young when we got married in our 20s. And yeah, I just think I've gone through this cycle of not knowing how to deal with emotion and feeling a lot of shame around it. And it would immediately take me to a very dark place where I felt unworthy. And I've had to really battle through that. I think it's been a lifetime of being put down where no one intentionally was trying to hurt me. It's just how adults handled hyperactive kids back then. And
Yeah.
then to have your peers, maybe, I was an attractive blonde athlete girl who seemed to get whatever I wanted based on appearances. And over time, even I was realizing that appearances go away, that people are judging me based on what I look like. They don't know me. And that's really when I set out, probably in my mid 30s, is when I really set out to learn who I am and what I stand for, because I didn't really know. And I think that that leaves a bit of a black space in your heart when you're not quite sure who you are. And, one of my big sayings now is, you hear a lot of people say, oh, I was trying to find myself during that period. Well, I believe you create yourself. I believe you can be whatever and whoever you want. You can be a kind, upstanding person, or you can be an asshole. It's a choice.
Hmm.
And so I've really learned that I had behaviors that were more on the asshole side. And I chose that I wanted to show up in this world as a kind, good, compassionate person. And so I worked on it and I practiced it and I learned it.
Yeah. Wow. That's, I mean, holy smokes. That's so surprising to find that out about you, but it's so great that you're so open about it, you know? It's something that and we've had other guests too, Jack, I don't know if you know Jack Thompson, the Jack ultra cyclist. He's an
Oh,
Australian,
yeah.
yeah, he's an Australian guy and really a wonderful, wonderful guy. But he's had some struggles like that too. And I think there's a lot of people out there that, it's not something that gets talked about very often. And it's, you have to be really vulnerable to put it out there. And, I think it's so helpful to see somebody like yourself or somebody like Jack or these other people that have been on the show that have this underlying thing. It's something that I've, thank God, I have a lot of other problems, but that's not one I've ever had. I've never had thoughts like that. But and I did have a friend of mine who did commit suicide when I was 16, and it was really hard to deal with because I mean, on one hand, I this person had everyone made fun of him. So he had a squeaky voice, and we raced BMX bikes together. And he was an incredible rider. And BMX goes through these kind of like peaks and valleys, right? And so we were in a valley where BMX wasn't very popular. And so we were going to these races. We would race each other a lot of times. He was a year older than me, but a lot of times we ended up racing each other, but we became friends. And he was weird. And I think he came from an abused house. Um, and although he never shared that, but there were signs of it, But then one day I went to go pick him up. I used to ride from my house. I'd go pick him up, and then we'd ride down to the dirt jump. So we'd go jump all afternoon and then ride home. And yeah, his mom told me. Um, yeah, but I think, I love the phrase tomorrow's a new day, because I think a lot of us can get in these, man, it just gets overwhelming. You start thinking about something and then that leads you to something else and then something else, and it just starts piling on. And then, but, tomorrow's a new day. And yeah, I'm so, uh, happy that you've been able to conquer that.
Thanks. I'm proud of it too, because it was very shameful to talk about. It was embarrassing. It was something that, even like on these chat rooms, people would use words like she seems bipolar,
Hmm.
like it's a bad thing, and
Right.
I'm not, but it wouldn't be a big deal if I was. I would work through it, So I just think mental health alone has had this stigma around it where it's bad, it's a bad thing instead of it's a normal thing. I feel like more people than we realize go through bouts of dark depression, of questioning why we're even here. You know, my mom has Alzheimer's. That's been quite the journey to watch.
Yeah.
She's now in a home and she's just falling on her face all the time. And their quality of life is gone. I wish we treat our pets better than we treat humans sometimes, keeping them alive in this state. But it makes me look at life and go, is this the end? Is that what I have to look forward to? What is the point of all this? And I go back to the bike. I go back to when I'm on my bike and I'm riding a gnarly technical section and my mind feels quiet and my body takes over. I'm in a state of bliss. It feels good. I feel confident. I feel sure of myself. And even if I don't have that forever, because we also have to be aware that we do get injured, we do get off the bike, things happen. I can always pull from that. I can always see myself on a bike, floating down a technical section of trail in the flow state, feeling good about myself. Because in this day and age, no one can hide from emotions. We all have to figure out a way to seek out moments of joy. Work isn't always fun. Relationships can be hard. Life takes work. And I think finding joy and peace within and finding a reason to live for a lot of people also takes work. And if I can be a voice for that, to let people realize that you never know what is going on inside someone, and that you're not alone, and that there are safe places where we can talk about it and find the tools. Because, you know, I did talk therapy for so long, but again, it was mountain biking that actually gave me the physical tools to make changes. I didn't want to crash my bike. So I needed to do the things that I needed to do to be a strong rider. And I did the work. Same with mental health. You need to do the things that you need to do to work on your mental health, to find those moments of joy that you can tap into when life gets hard, and to realize that you can do hard things. And that is a quick segue to my mom having Alzheimer's. And I'm watching my 80-year-old dad. He's had a wife take care of everything. He's had a secretary at work. He literally never put himself in a position of doing hard and challenging things beyond his normal daily routine for 60 something years. And I use him as an example because I'm witnessing what it looks like when you don't challenge yourself. When challenges do come up, they're really scary and they're really hard. And a lot of people pad that hard with drinking or being depressed or letting emotion take over, when it doesn't have to, right? In order to survive in this world, I feel like we all need to make a conscious effort to work on all things within ourselves, mental, physical, all the things that make up our health. And I say this at my camps. I'm witnessing someone in my dad, unfortunately, who's really struggling because life just got really hard. But when you do things that are hard frequently, when you put yourself in a position that challenges you and forces you to climb that hill, no matter how bad your legs are burning and how much you want to quit, you keep going. Your brain tells your body to keep going because the downhill awaits. There is accomplishment in that, and there is measurable result in getting through the hard stuff and knowing that there's something on the other side, whether it's growth, feeling good, finding joy, whatever it is. Doing hard things forever is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, that's a soundbite.
You
Oh,
need to get on it. You need to get on a speaking circuit.
yeah. I mean,
Serious.
yeah, if you think there's a couple things that really struck me. So, first of all, you were on the front end of, cyber bullet, whatever you want to call it, like these trolls, these people that just have nothing good to say. They're on there to dunk on people and just say the most horrific shit that they would never say to somebody's face. And you were on the front lines of that. So it wasn't like you had this whole hit. Like nowadays, if somebody dunks on one of your Instagram posts, you could just, oh, that's a bot or that's a troll or whatever. You could just write it off because we've seen it now for so long. We just know that that's what it is. But in the early days, I would imagine that it really did feel like, wow, this is maybe it's coming from an authentic place of this person that I mean, I could see where that would be super challenging. My goodness. And you did get through it. So that was the first observation. The second observation I have is about those of us in cycling. I feel like we have adventure in our lives. It's some of us almost daily, right? And you think about a lot of the people um, that go through life that don't have much adventure. They don't push themselves, or for whatever reason, they're in the cube farm and they're just working day in and day out. And they've got this tough situation. And I do really feel fortunate that I'm able to do these things, because not all people are able to, for whatever reason, kids, finances, whatever it is. But, there is something obviously very beneficial to having adventure in your life, pushing through, like you were talking about, doing those hard things. And, some people want to go through life without doing anything hard. And that's
Yeah, comfort. People get comfortable. And I'm noticing that about that older generation, the 70s and 80s
yeah,
humans who I know, they definitely got into their comfort routine. And I think we're being very vocal about how that's bad for us, that we need to, the one constant thing that we can all count on is what?
yeah,
Change,
yeah,
right? So if we can be on board with that change, even with my riding, someone said to me in my class in Vermont, what do I do about my changing risk aversion? I'm actually more scared to get hurt now. Everyone says the same thing. I can't get hurt. I need my body for my job. I'm like, yeah, no shit, me too.
yeah,
I can't be standing here coaching you without my body. I don't want to get hurt either.
yeah,
And my advice to them is to just, again, back to roll with it. Sometimes we just have to let it roll, that we are getting older. My hips don't feel the same. I got bone on my knee. Like, I don't want to get hurt either. So I'm a lot gentler on my expectations on myself. The fact that I'm out, I had a woman in my class say, I'm going to be a wussy and go around this like 10 times. I'm going to be a wussy on this one too. And I said, Maureen, you're 67 years old and you're mountain biking. Quit calling yourself a wussy. You're a freaking badass. The
yeah,
fact that you just get on a mountain bike and ride through the woods is enough.
right.
Quit putting pressure on yourself that
Seriously, just
not riding that rock
stop all
roll
that.
is a wussy move. It's
Yeah,
not. You're a badass. Like, change the dialogue against ourselves and realize that just choosing to do a challenging sport at whatever level feels good for you is enough.
yeah, yeah. Well said. Yeah. That's amazing though. 67.
We get we get 70 somethings. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And
I
their advice is the same. Don't stop moving.
Yeah, I have my parents we built an in-law unit in my backyard. Oh, in-law unit in my backyard, and my parents are now living in my backyard. And I we got an exercise bike for them, and they don't do they haven't been doing any exercise, but now when they first started riding the bike, they were doing 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes feels like 20.
Yes. But now we've upgraded the exercise bike. Now they have a recumbent bike because they didn't like the seats. The
Nice.
recumbent. And they're doing 30 minutes a day. And
Awesome.
they're in their early 80s, late 70s, early 80s between the two of them. And but I just it's a fine line, because you don't want to hammer them, right? They've been through the rigors of life. They're at the, but at the same time, it's like you gotta use it or lose it. It's
You
like
got to
you
move.
need
You got to
to
move.
keep moving. Yeah, and
Yep.
it is
And
challenging.
it can look different for everyone as long as they're moving.
Yes, yeah,
And I think that's part of it, is to not put pressure on yourself for it to look a certain way. Even with mountain biking, like, oh, well, I'm never going to do any of those big things. And a lot of people think like popping a wheelie is a big thing. And we're like, oh, yeah, you are. You're
yeah,
definitely going to be doing those big things. And then they do them and they're like, oh,
yeah.
wow, 67 years old, popping a wheelie up a box, like, and then up a rock garden.
Right.
Like, don't sell yourself short, but also if it's not in the cards for you, then that's okay too. I
Yes.
just think it's mindset, and we're all learning about mindset, that we can choose this. We choose our attitudes. Mountain biking taught me this, and I love this about mountain biking. Go on a ride, have a bad ride, have your tire blow, don't have the tools, whatever the case, you choose your attitude, right? You can either be stoked that you're walking in the woods, look around a little bit, or you can be pissed off that everything went wrong. But that is the slice of life. We get to choose what our attitude is about everything, and choose wisely.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Well, good stuff, Lindsey. Feel like that's probably a good spot to wrap it up on. But Dave, do you have anything else that you'd like to
I do,
interject
as
here?
always.
Yeah.
I there's also on your thing, you got ladies, right? But you also have girls. So you do stuff for the young ones too, right?
We do. It's very confidence building based. We use a book called The Confidence Code for Girls, and they journal and they learn at a young age, which I wish I had, how to relate sport to life. And so the program is very based on skill building, having fun, learning to take care of yourself and your peers, but also how to build confidence in yourself when you don't have it. It's very emotional based, because we want these younger girls to figure this all out at a younger age. And it's a really fun way for them to understand emotions and life using the bike as a tool. We're finding a lot of success in it. I'll be honest, it's not an easy program to run. To keep it affordable, we keep thinking we're going to have to cancel it because we can't afford to run it. But we have enough people who really want to help us that so far it's staying alive. But it is one of our more challenging programs to stay alive. But that's
Yeah, I
okay. We're not
just
going to give up on it.
yeah,
It's
I've said
important
this.
that this younger generation learns this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've said this on this pod before, but in a prior life, I was substitute teaching, and these kids it was middle school, and they're just, it's terrible for me to say. I want to say they're effed up, but they're not. They're so, COVID has just made them so many insecurities, so impeded their development, um, lack of confidence. It's just so, and you see the ones that are very um just lacking the skills, the social skills, the confidence in it. And then you see the other ones that seem like they're brimming with it, and you like the bullying thing. It doesn't seem sincere. It seems like they're compensating for those same feelings. And I'm not a psychologist, but I spent enough time in the classroom and in the courtyard watching these kids, and it's like, wow, this is a messed up generation. They need something to build confidence.
They need movement. And I've seen it firsthand. One of my childhood friends' daughters was in our class. And I mean, I watched her blossom from day one, looking down when she walked up, not wanting to practice any of the skills, to the next year being one of the ride leaders. And her mom told me this has exponentially changed her personality. Mountain biking has given her this little spring in her step and this belief in herself that has translated into the rest of her life. And to me, that's all I needed to hear, that that's what we're trying to do, is help these young girls find confidence in themselves, not because someone's cheering you on, not because you're winning anything, because you're learning what confidence even means and how to find it when it's not there. Because that's the real struggle. It's one thing to just be a confident person, it's another thing to have to work towards it. And while it is surprising maybe to hear that I've had to work towards it, being depressed and not really wanting to live also comes with very low self-esteem. I think that's actually the root of it, is not liking myself and not feeling worthy of life. And we're trying to help these young girls see their worth at a young age without any external noise. Find it within yourself. You're in charge of that. And then the rest will come. But a lot of this social media BS is causing them to judge themselves based on feedback that they're getting online that's not real. And it drives me nuts because you want these young girls to find that confidence and that belief in themselves because of themselves, not because someone else is praising them.
You know, I can see where you live that, firsthand before, like we were talking about. So I can see how you'd want to try to correct that as, this seems like something that should be embedded in our school systems, right? Not not some extracurricular, thing that somebody's got to sign up and pay for, but this should be something that we're teaching in the school systems, how to be you know, have more grace, how to be empathy and confidence. And all of those grace and empathy come from people that are confident most of the time, right?
How to regulate emotion. Yeah. How to learn about our emotion, how to regulate it. A
Yeah,
lot of people just react when they have an emotion rather than like feeling it and thinking it through.
right. A lot of times with the ADHD, also it's like you're trying to, you got this hot rod of a person, right? Their motor's just turning at 9,000 RPMs when they're just sitting in a chair. And they're trying to force you to sit in this classroom and just read this boring shit, you know, where it's like, I just feel like there needs to be more play. There needs to be more, if, you know, there needs to be more, force these young people to get active, get outside. You know, they're restricting a lot of the things, the activities to these really short time frames. But I really feel like, I know for myself, I've always been hyper and I always struggled in the classroom. You know, it wasn't because I was, I don't think I'm not super smart or anything, but I could get through class. I could get through schoolwork, no problem. But I didn't want to. I was just so distracted and so like, man, I want to be out there. You know, I don't want to be sitting here in this classroom listening to this boring shit. That was kind of my mindset. And I just feel like the school, I don't know. They're so focused on this academia that, you know, for some people, sure, yeah, okay, you're going to be an academic, you're going to go to college, you're going to do all this stuff. But there's so many people that are never going to do that. They don't want to do that. And they're not wired for that. They just can't. And
Well,
to,
and we're not going to go very far in life because we're book smart if we don't have the ability to emotionally regulate. You know, a good leader of a company, my business partner is a great example. She really has taught me how to get along with women because she's a good leader, because she is kind and compassionate and helps elevate people, helps us do what we're good at. And I think that you can't have good leaders in this world unless they know how to emotionally regulate and be kind and compassionate. So it is something that this younger generation should be learning in school, how to regulate your own emotions, how to identify what you're feeling and why, and how to work through that, because that's where behavior comes from, is unidentified emotional turmoil, whether you're at home being abused and that's causing fear in you, or scarcity, or you're you have a single parent and they're working really hard and you're neglected. There's a reason behaviors come out. There's a reason people develop patterns of behavior. And I mean, we even see it on the bike, people who develop bad habits out of fear. Two finger braking is a great example. A lot of people use two fingers on their brakes. And to me, that's a fear-based response. You're so worried about slowing down and stopping that you put two fingers on your brakes. When those disc brakes are perfectly capable with one finger, and if you actually lift your middle finger up to put it on your brakes, you just loosened your ring finger. So now, instead of actually holding on to your bike down a gnarly technical section when you need those wheels to be rolling forward, you're so scared that you're two finger braking and not holding on. And it's such a good life lesson in what we do to prevent something with fear guiding us, when really you don't want to crash. Braking isn't always the right option. Braking is usually how we crash. We panic brake and things go wrong. Instead of just looking ahead when we get off balance and letting the wheels roll, we panic brake. So I love how a lot of what we do in our organization is we'll say things like, see, you put those two fingers on your brakes, you're in that fear-based state of mind instead of thinking about what needs to happen to get through it. So it's fun to identify all this and to help people realize all these things about themselves that they've never learned before, using a bicycle as a tool.
yeah, yeah, let it roll. Metaphor for
Let it
life.
roll. Yeah. Your
Yeah.
wheels aren't rolling, you're crashing.
Bad news. Yep, no doubt. All right. Well, Lindsey, thank you so much for
Brilliant,
coming on the
brilliant
podcast
stuff. Thank you.
and just sharing everything that you did. And I know it's going to help people out there that have those struggles. And I really appreciate it. And I want to try something new where do you have, do you have any suggestions for people that you think should be on the podcast? Maybe just give us
Oh.
two suggestions.
Oh, I think you should talk to Jess Hanna, Jess the Maker online.
Okay. Jess Hanna.
Jess Hanna. Her name online is Jess the Maker.
Okay.
She won a contest to one of our camps back in 2016 that Liv put on. She won a video contest to one of our camps in 2016, and it sparked her. It's where she realized there's more to mountain biking than meets the eye. And she has now turned into an online comedian she does the funniest things about bikes. Like she shows videos of her house remodel, how it's all falling apart, but then she's got all these new bikes in her bike room. Like she's very relatable. She's really trying to bring humor and realness to mountain biking. She's really funny and really great.
Love it.
Yeah. And I don't know to kind of think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I put you on the spot there. So
Yeah.
I'll definitely reach out to Jess and see if
that would be my number one, just thinking of someone who came through Ladies All Ride and kind of it helped spark her interest in being a voice for mountain biking for women as well. I mean, she's gone from just a regular social media person to 100,000 followers in a year.
Wow.
And she's just bringing humor to this crazy sport, and it's really great.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are really funny about what we do.
It is. It's a strange little sport. Yeah. It's a beautiful, strange little sport that keeps us all healthy and sane.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So how do people how do they follow along, and how can they sign up? Is it on your website directly?
Yeah, we have a website, ladiesallride.com. And then Instagram, Ladies All Ride, Facebook, Ladies All Ride. All the things are Ladies All Ride. And the way to remember that is that we should get ladies to all ride bikes, and we should all ride together.
Yes. Yes.
Because when women all ride bikes, the world will be a better place, because the more women who are happy and confident and strong and believe in themselves, the better this world is going to be.
No doubt. Awesome.
Women are very powerful, and they're just realizing this.
Yeah. Yeah, great stuff, Lindsey. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.
You
Thanks,
coming on,
Dave.
making the time. Yep. It was awesome talking to you.
Absolutely a pleasure of a ride. So thank you.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Listen, everybody.
Okay, we'll chat soon.
All right.